Hi, welcome to the Argentine Rugby Breakdown. Today, once again, just little Jaguaro myself, and we're going to be talking about the Jaguares Reds game of Saturday. So we're going to be doing a little review of that game. If you follow us on social media or on YouTube, you saw that I posted a video just after the game on the stands with a friend by my side, and there was just a first impressions of what the game of the game that just finished, and I wanted to get you that just a raw opinion about the game I just watched, and not after rewatching it and trying to see some details and analyze it a little bit more. You might know what if you saw that video, you might know what my opinions are, but let's start with a formal review of the game. Let's start by talking about the lineup. There was some changes to the lineup, so I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to talk about the late changes that happened to it. So we started with Michael Vivas, Julián Montoya, Lucius Ordoni, Guido Petti, Lucas Paulos, Tomás Lezana, Marcos Kremer, Rodrigo Bruni, Felipe Escurra, Domingo Miotti, Juan Cruz María, Matías Moroni, Emiliano Boffelli, Bautista Delgui, and Santiago Carreras. We already see a change in the starting lineup from what was supposed to be. That's Julián Montoya is coming in, and Agustín Crevi is not playing. We're going to talk about that later. The replacements are Santiago Socino, who came into as a replacement hooker, Javier Díaz, Joel Esclavi, Matías Alemano, Javier Ortega Decio, Tomás Cubelli, Tomás Albornoz, and Santiago Chocobares. The late changes to the lineup were Agustín Crevi, which he had an issue on Friday. An old injury came back to bother him, so he was ruled out, not fit for the game. And so Santiago Socino came into the squad. He's the third hooker, and it was his first game of the season. He only played once before for Jaguares. It was the game against the Sunwolves last season, because he was a late comer into the squad. So he was only available for that game, and because of the number of games he played, or exactly the number when he was brought into the squad, he wasn't available for the playoffs, so he couldn't even play in playoffs. The other late change that happened just before the game, a couple of hours before, and we just found out on the stadium, was the captain, De La Fuente. Jerónimo De La Fuente also had when they were doing starting to do the warm up for the day, for the match, he found that he was not fit for it. He had a little nagging in the leg, so he was not available. He was not fit for the game, and he was ruled out. They didn't want to risk him. So the changes were that Juan Cruz María, who was a replacement, came into the starting lineup, and Santiago Chocobares, who made his debut in Super Rugby last game, went into the replacement. We also are seeing that Matías Alemano is coming back from injury, but let's see which are the players that played for the first time this season, and there we see Alemano. Lucius Ordoni, who is a prop. He was going to be playing his first game this season. He played a couple of games last season, but first game 2020. Santiago Socino once again played a game last season, first game this season. Matías Alemano could not play the first couple of games. He's a regular of the team. He was injured, and now he's back. He was the natural replacement for Lavanini, so I think we're going to see him starting up more often. And Tomás Albornoz, who is the third number 10, and because Tito Díaz was still injured and they didn't want to risk him, he was going to be having some minutes, and actually he went out and he became the Jaguares number 65 to debut in Super Rugby. All these four players, well, this is their first game this season. So since some people usually ask, the attendance was about 8,100-ish. 8,150 something. It's about the same attendance as the previous game. It's still too early in the season for more people, and Jaguares needs to build a little bit more of wins in order to attract more people into the stadium. And also still February, still the January and February, the month where people take the summer holidays here in Argentina, so that's another reason why there's few people in the stadiums. If Jaguares starts losing game, we're gonna see tons of people not going to the stadium. But if they win, if they start winning games, the crowds are gonna come to the game. So okay, let's talk about the game. If you saw the game, I guess you did. It was a game of two halves. The feeling in the stadium, as I said before, and after watching, I usually rewatch the game with the original transmission here in Argentina, and we also watch it in English because we want to see a different point of view from our local commentators. We want to see how the foreign commentators speak about the game or how they see it. So the first half, right from the start, the Reds were really focused. They had nothing to lose, and they were really aggressive. They were strong with their forwards. They were really fast and aggressive with the backs, creating lots of spaces or little lines and sending kind of players and using it as decoys, and using really well Henry Spy as a decoy or as a runner, as a ball carrier in some instances, and that was really good. So they started really strong, and when you couple that their strongness, their strength in attacking in their forwards against the way the Jaguares started, because the Jaguares started really slow, really not connecting and missing tackles. They were able to reposition themselves quickly, but they missed tackles, and that's something that's unforgivable. You cannot miss tackles. I screamed a lot in the stadium, why were not they tackling? And that's something that's very important for this team, because they want the defense to be one of the main kind of fighting weapons, and they were not delivering that. They were not being the team that they want to be, and all the time they're saying that they want to be one type of team, and this is not what they were. They were completely out of focus. They were missing tackles. They were giving away. They were kind of buying all the false players that were running, and they were just going for them, and they were once again missing tackles. And you can defend all you want, you can position all yourself you want, but if you don't make tackles, the players of the other players, the other team is kind of break your line, and there's nothing to do with that. So yeah, they really started, the Reds started strong, and once again, you couple that with the lack of tackle from the Jaguares. Well, you saw what happened. 4 tries against 2. We were able to come back in the last minutes of the game with that high ball that Boffelli scored a try. We had the chance. We scored with the maul in the first half. We had a chance of some other mauls, but we didn't control it that good. We tried to do some plays from the maul, and that was not working. We had to just focus on maul and going forward with it, because in the end that was the weapon that worked for us in that in the whole game. So now let's go to the second half, and the second half was a completely different story. When they interview the captain, who for this game was Julian Montoya, and they asked him what happened in the dressing rooms at halftime, he said, we talked between ourselves and we said the thing we needed to say to ourselves, and that meant they just said what I speculate is, what the hell we're doing, why are we not tackling, why are we giving so many options for them to run with the ball, why aren't we so aggressive in defense and holding the line, what are we doing? That coupled with, I believe, what the coaches said, that had to be really strong also, that changed the way of the game in the second half. The Reds went out trying to play the same way as they did because of course it was working for them and they were really strong doing that. But they started committing many penalties, which they also did in the first half. And Jaguares, they corrected their mistakes. They started tackling once again. They started to bring back that tackling performance that they had the first two games. We said before in the review of the end games, Jaguares in that game had a 91% tackling, and that is Jaguares falling, sorry, and that is and that is amazing. They had to go back to that performance. They had to go back to that intensity at tackling, and that intensity at defense, at the ruck, at when we had the ball at colliding with all the other players, and being able to clean up faster, to clean up more aggressively without making penalties. And that's what's happened. Jaguares is starting to do that and starting to control in some way Reds. Reds still had great players and still made some good plays, but Jaguares controlled it much better than the first half. And we take advantage of the situation of the many penalties that the Reds started committing. And we take advantage of this with the maul. And sometimes in rugby, when one thing doesn't work and one thing works, stick with the thing that works. And that's what happened in that. Our maul worked and we stick with that. And we got, in the end, 4 tries from maul. William Montoya got 3, and Santiago Sosino, who started playing, who played his first game, he also got a try. And once that happened, also there was a yellow card because of repeated infringement in the 22s of the Reds. We took advantage of that lack of the Reds captain, who was sent off for 10 minutes, and that he was a forward. He's a forward, so we took advantage of that and we mauled them, and we scored. Jaguares scored, I think, 2 more maul tries after while he was in the bin, and another try out of play, out of being aggressive in tackling, in defense. We were aggressive at that situation, and we were able to recover a ball, to do a turnover, which Tomás Lezana quickly played to Boffelli. Boffelli ran, turned inside, and offloaded to Cubelli, who was the support player, and Cubelli went all the way easily into the in goal. That's part of so that was more likely to the play of Jaguares usually tries to do. And there were a couple of other instances where Jaguares recovered the confidence, where they started to play more aggressively, even with the backs, where we got some players to break the line and to create some instances of danger into the Reds 22 or the Reds defense area. So that is what I think that happened. That's what my point of view of the game. Later, during the interviews that the captain Julián Montoya gave for the local TV, and also the coach Gonzalo Quesada, they talked about letting themselves down, talking about not being the team they want to be, especially Montoya said, not being the team they want to be, not tackling, not defending well, not being aggressive in defense, not doing that what they recognize as their base, as their kind of their core, in which they can rely on, and that was not happening. So they were very disappointed with that. The other thing that happened is that the coach, Gonzalo Quesada, while he was talking about the situation, he said that probably they were not given excuses. They say that the Reds really played well, and that they were a very difficult rival to play. But also he said that the late changes might have disrupted the performance of the team. And then why? Because there's very few days between one game and the other, and the way they can train. So what usually happens is that the team that's going to start up is the one who gets more training, because it's the lineup that's going to be playing most of the time, the more minutes. So the late change between De La Fuente and coming in Malia meant that the time of practice that Maria and Moroni had during the week was insufficient, because mostly De La Fuente was training with Moroni, although Maria went in a couple of times, but the amount of time was less than with one than another. So what happened was that many of the tries of the breaks of the line breaks came between number 12 and number 13, or inside number 12, between number 10 and number 12, between number 10 and number 12. So the situation might have impacted in the performance, because Maria didn't have that much days of training preparing for this game. But that's not really an excuse, but it's looking into some reasons why they were able to break, why the Reds were able to break our line so easily. So he talked about that. He also talked that at some point he thought, talking about Quesada, he thought that Jaguares might not come back from this game, because there was a really young team playing, the Jaguares one, and he didn't know if they had the strength, the mental strength to come back. And when we look back on the squad that played, let's remember that Lucius Orni was his first game, and he only played a couple of minutes last season, a couple of games. Lucas Paulo, once again, is his third game of the season. Felipe Escurra, although he has experience, is also he was his first start of the season. Santiago Carreras, once again, one of the younger players, and going into the reserves. Santiago Socino, first game of the season. Joel Esclavi, Javier Diaz, first game of the season. Joel Esclavi, third game of the season. Matias Alemano, first game, lots of experiences, first game of the season. Tomás Albornoz, completed debutant. Santiago Jaguares, second game of the season, second game ever in Super Rugby. So when he was thinking that, okay, I'm going to bring in the reserves at a certain point, second half, they might not have the strength, the mental strength, or the experience to turn this back, but they did. So that's really good for the team to understand that they have these players that they are young, but they can deliver, and they have the mental strength to not give up in this type of situation. And also for the whole team to understand that these things might happen, but they never gave the game as lost. They fought back, and finally they won the game. So what's going to happen now? Well, let me tell you this. I think they're going to give a good look into this game, into what happened in the game, just like what they did with the Hurricanes, and they're gonna talk a lot about this, about what's going on, what they are going to have to put themselves through to win a game again. And this game is against the Stormers, which is a really tough. They haven't lost so far, so it's going to be a really tough game. And I believe they are the favorites to win because they're playing local. So I think what is going to happen is that it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game to predict. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope Jaguares win. I hope they can turn around what happened in the last minutes of Hurricanes and the first half of this game. And if they do that, I think they have the elements, the players and the coaching staff and the game to win that game. They have the place to win that game, but we're going to have to see. And you have to be humble and say that we're going to be playing a really, really good game, really good team who's having a great performance. And we have to be humble enough to know that we have to work the 80 minutes and work every ball and be concentrated and not rush into things and work and work and work and stand in defense really quickly and tackle and tackle and tackle and take our opportunities. And take your opportunities, because if you don't do that, they might bite you back. Their team might bite you back and you can lose the game, as we saw with the Hurricanes. Well, that's all from Howard and myself. We're going to bring you the preview of the game against the Stormers once the squad is announced, and we might bring you another video before that that's talking about the squad that traveled to South Africa, and which was the selection of the players and which players went in and which players were left out and things like that. So thank you very much. Please subscribe, give us a like, leave us your comments so we can talk about this. I want to hear your opinions, and well, I'll see you on the next video. Bye.